Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Obscurity of Maximum Security with Kara Phillip and, most importantly, Mike Johnson. Are we going to continue talking about towers?
Yeah. Tower 4 was the last one we discussed. It's no longer there, as I mentioned. There's a slab up there, but that's it on that one. The next one down on the other end of the honor dorm is Tower 5. Tower 5 could be kind of boring. Like I said, you kind of look down, honor dorm on the left, the back of the M&M and Voc School on the right. Not a lot of activity going on over there.
It's a pretty small corner.
Yeah, and but the thing is, just because there isn't a lot of activity, you still got to be alert, because somebody might try something, or you'll see somebody running around where they shouldn't be. It didn't happen very often. But also the administration would do system checks on you. They'd hang ropes around different places and wait and see if you see them. At night, you always acknowledge the vehicle with a flashlight, or anybody walking, you'd flash with a flashlight. And Tower 5 back in the corner back there, one night, state vehicle come around, and the guard up there in the towers flashing with the flashlight, vehicle wouldn't respond. It was a duty warden, because it's late at night, and I guess he gets out and he takes a leak out there, okay? So the guard's up there
doing his job,
and we had intercoms in the towers. We could talk to each other, and he was saying, he's not acknowledging me, So he sat back down and kept looking in the institution. And then over the radio, the duty warden calls him and says, 105, this is whatever he was, 5 or whatever. He says, be advised, I'm flashing you, which, kind of had two meanings there, maybe at that point. And the guard that was up there at the time got a little upset because he was trying to get him to acknowledge him and everything. And he opened up the window of the tower and he told him what for.
You know what?
So He's many words.
He's not wrong. Hey, I did my job. And don't act like I'm not.
Yeah, he let him have it. And so he got back in the car, drove around. I was in Tower 1, and I'm like giving the play-by-play. He goes, okay, he just come out of the administration building, and he's heading for the shift commander's office, And, okay, he's in the shift commander's office, and like 30 seconds goes by, and the phone's ringing up in Tower 5. I'm sending a relief, and so they called him in and they ripped him for that, I guess, for yelling at the duty warden. Yeah,
still on his side.
So, but anyway, the next tower down, heading south, is Tower 6. That's the main sally port. Again, there was a control panel with buttons. You could open things electrically. There's a sergeant down there, and he'd tell you, he'd some of them used a whistle. Some of them just said, would say what gate to open,
More importantly, very recently, within the last few years, there was a very cute raccoon family that lived up in that one.
Okay.
If any of you have gotten to see it, it was a blessing a few years ago. Very cute little guys just climbing out of there all the time.
Yeah.
It was a good time, so raccoons versus sergeant, raccoons.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, that was Tower 6. That's the main sally port. And that's where all the major traffic came and went, including semis. And the next tower down, Tower 7, all right, overlooked the West Yard.
Yes.
So that was a pretty busy tower. And then there was no Tower 8. I don't know if there ever was. If there was, I don't know where it was. But Tower 9, as I mentioned, was on top of the front box. And there was a mishap thing that happened, a misadventure. There's a guard, up there, and he was talking on the phone, and he emptied the 38. You'd push the thing on the cylinder, and he snapped it closed. He's talking, and he's pulling the trigger. Click, click.
Oh, buddy.
Bang! And it went off and put a round right up through the ceiling.
At least it was there in that one. Nobody's above him.
So for years, somebody had circled the hole and wrote 38 next to it.
I wonder how often he just would make a practice of doing that, because
he thought
hopefully
he'd
never
six
again.
come out, but only 5 come out. I'm not like sticking up for it or nothing. I mean, you should never play with that stuff.
That's just like he should have been twirling his hair instead. That was what a mindless, dangerous.
So anyway,
somebody yelled at him, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And well, actually, I heard that he called a friend of his and said, "Bring me a 38 round," and tossed it up, put it in it. Now this is 40-something years ago, so don't be like.
So you can say there's 6
of
them and you didn't
if
do
there's
it.
a statute of limitations on
I think we're long past. We're not naming names.
So he replaced the spent round, and that way, there was still 50 rounds in the thing. Well,
and he's trying to, so he could say, "I don't know how that happened."
Or actually, I don't think anybody. I knew the guy downstairs probably knew, but he. That's what I heard is what happened, because I never really heard about any really repercussions from it. Okay, so we go across the street to the annex, and there's 3 towers over there: Annex Tower 1, Annex Tower 2, Annex Tower 3. Now, you're in front of the old women's prison. You look to the right. There's a rectangular up at the wall.
Like over like the Sallyport-ish?
No, the other way.
Oh,
you're
further.
in front, and you look to the right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that would be the most boring tower at Joliet. It overlooked like nothing. It overlooked like the back of the little dry cleaning place. And that was about it. There was nothing going on over there. Mind-numbingly boring. But again, you got to be alert. You got to watch. You got to, So Annex Tower 2 is the one everybody knows. That's the one above the Sallyport.
Okay.
And now, see, there's a cell house there now when you go in that Sallyport, and that's the cell house that the haunted prison uses.
Yes.
They don't use the old main
They do not use the old one.
Yeah. Where that cell house is, that was a yard.
Okay.
That's where the inmates, and before it was reception and classification, the women would recreate out there. Okay. Now it's all covered up by that cell house.
It's the new cell house, and there's a pretty small yard.
So Tower 2 would overlook that yard, as well as operate the Sallyport, let the vehicle in and out. And that Sallyport would also let the vehicles in from the counties with freshly sentenced guys to be shook down and
that's
classified.
What I would see when I was little and we're driving out. We would follow the Cook County buses in, and that's what I would see. Yeah. And
so Tower 3 is also overlooked the old yard down there. And as you're driving down Collins, you look to your right, you see a little round thing with like a cone top roof on it. That's Annex Tower 3. It was so small in there wasn't room for a chair, so you sat on the toilet. And again, you were watching the yard, basically. Now, if they were in a crush for personnel,
I was up there. I was up there.
Annex Tower 1. Oh, you were in Tower 3?
We made it up there.
Yeah.
I don't have any pictures, though, from it.
If they needed people, they wouldn't man Annex Tower 1 and Annex Tower 3. Annex Tower 2, yes.
Matters, yeah.
It depended on how much personnel they had. But Annex Tower 3 and Annex 2 used to look at the yard. And one mishap that happened with Annex Tower 2, a guy escaped. He squeezed through the gates. And I heard that the major went and picked him up at a bar on Patterson Road, because they called the cops and said, "There's a guy in here who ordered a beer and he's wearing a jumpsuit." So the major went and got him, and I heard he paid for the beer, and he said, "Let's go," and he brought him back.
That's adorable. And a good note for this episode to end. Thank you for watching this week's episode of The Obscurity of Maximum Security with Kara Phillip, and most importantly, Mike Johnson. Bye.
Bye.